announcement to make. This Sunday, I hope all of you know, the time goes back an hour here in the United States. So the class will be actually an hour earlier for all of you until the time adjusts, which I think is around the 26th. That's when it goes back in Europe and possibly Israel. So hopefully you remember this. Every year, or every time this happens, people show up an hour early or an hour later. So I'm just announcing this, that there will be a time change on Sunday. The time will be an hour earlier here. It'll be the same hour here, but an hour earlier in Europe and the Middle East. Does anyone have Brazil, I think it'll be an hour earlier too. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? People often ask about what are the results. Please try and sit still. What are the results of this meditation practice? Why do I do it? What the ultimate outcome? And the answer is really very simple. The goal, I think, of all humanity is to truly become happy people. Everything people do, whether it's making money, getting married, having relationships, it's all about that. It's about learning how to build a system inside so that one can truly, ultimately be a happy person living on this planet. Heart is open. God is love. There's love inside them. And often this kind of thing misfires because people don't have training. They don't understand that in order to live every day with your heart open, you have to take time to develop a system inside that is capable of doing it. You have to get free of the things that keep your heart from being open, the tension, the mind yakking all the time, emotional problems, all of the stuff, that creates a lot of chaos inside of people. But the ultimate goal is to be a happy human being. I always say it. Happy people are enlightened people. Happy people have truly managed to get free of all the anxiety and neurosis and chaos in themselves and to live here with their hearts open, with love inside them, kindness, with compassion, etc., etc. So that is the goal. To become a child of God, we have to do the work on ourselves to build a system that allows us to be that child, allows us to be happy people, to live here with a certain type of innocence and love and at the same time have the inner strength so that life itself doesn't rip it out of us. Now, it might sound simplistic, yet it's really difficult to do. And as I say over and over again, the only person we're up against in doing this is ourselves. We're not up against the politics and the money and all the stuff that goes on in life. We're not up against our parents. We're not up against our husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends and children. We're up against ourselves. We have to get strong enough in order to be able to keep our hearts open and not to allow all these external factors, to take over inside us. The goal is very simple. And the doing of it is not complex. What's complex are human beings. They come to this with all their complexity, with all their past and problems and things they've repressed inside themselves, et cetera, et cetera. As I've said before, the energy of God, the energy of spirit is not positive or negative. It's just energy. We open, we receive the Shakti, we receive the energy. And the more open we are, the purer that energy will be as it works its way through our system. But the fact is that people are not open. You understand? They are full of conflict. They are full of emotions, mental stuff, all kinds of neurosis, anxiety, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what creates the problems. So the meditation is about fixing that inside ourselves. Fixing it. And it can be done. I know it was done for me. I mean, man, when I met my teacher, forget it. I was a really very sorrow case of a human being when I met him. But over years of working, all of that got transformed into a state of openness. And I still have work to do on myself. That's why I'm here. I mean, perfection is in the realms of the gods and angels and spirit. Human beings do not live in states of perfection. Human beings have to work on themselves. And that is, if there's any kind of covenant that we make with higher energy, God, that's the covenant. We will do the work in order to receive that energy and allow it in its pure state to truly work through us and develop us and open us as human beings. Instead of receiving that energy and transforming it into neurosis and anger and anxiety and fear and all that stuff that runs rampant inside of people. So we have to do the work. That's our job. That's the covenant we make with higher energy in the universe, to do that work. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
I have a question, Stuart, Leisha.
Yes, Leisha.
It's a question about, sorry. So in one of Rudy's books, he talks about when he was a child or growing up, that he was, I can't remember how he phrased it, but that he was, I think at one point he was thrown down the stairs or so, I don't know, but that he was torn apart by life like many, many times. And my question is, when life really is quite violent towards you in moments, like it can be very violent, that I don't quite grasp when it's at that high level how you can transform it, or how Rudy
look, Rudy's mother, God bless her, she was a very dear friend of mine. I loved her very much. She was a tough lady. She once came up to me and said, "You get your energy from God, I get my energy from diamonds." I laughed so hard. She was tough. He grew up, when he was 2 years old, she kicked him down a flight of steps and cracked his head open. He had to spend 6 months in a hospital. True story. And to me, it was completely awe-inspiring and amazing how, after going through a situation like that, when he was a little thing, he loved his mother unconditionally. It was extraordinary. Well, it took years of inner growth and development for him to build that kind of system where he loved his mother unconditionally. He once told me, he said, "I couldn't pay a therapist $1,000 an hour, to show me what's wrong with myself, which my mother does free." I mean, he said, and it was extraordinary. And when I saw this and I heard what he went through with his mother, what she did to him when he was a kid, little baby, it was an amazing thing for me. The depth of forgiveness, the understanding that it was his mother and he had to love her unconditionally, no matter what she did to him. Now, this took years of him working on himself to build an inner life that was strong enough to do that. So, yes, we all go through stuff like that. I mean, look, I was in an airplane crash. I was in a car wreck once that the car bounced, turned over 3 times. I was in all kinds of life-threatening situations in my life, and it all came back to me as simply, Stuart, you have to grow. You have to learn forgiveness. You have to learn to love these people. You have to learn to love whatever it is that life brought into your life and to forgive. Because if you don't forgive, you don't move on. You're stuck. And that is part of that, I would say, is one of the big problems most people have. They cannot forgive. Bad things were done to them. Society is this and that, and people, and they're so angry inside, it completely messes up their whole system. And that lack of forgiveness, the bigness of heart to say, I forgive, keeps people from moving on. It keeps them from growing in their life. Now, I don't think I could use a more powerful example than being kicked down a flight of steps by your mother when you were 2 years old. And then growing up, and I used to see how he treated her and how he loved her and what he did for her. To me, it was extraordinary lesson to me that I have no complaints about anybody who's ever been in my life. And I've had some pretty strange people come through people that try to kill me, literally try to kill me. In all kinds of ways, And I remember when I had these experiences going on, I used to go to Rudy, to Nityananda. I went to, Ramana Maharshi. I went to, Ramakrishna, Sarada Devi. And I asked, what do I do? And they said, the only way you can get past that is to forgive those people. So that's the only way you'll ever be able to get past that. Otherwise, you're going to have that rancor inside you for the rest of your life. Now, how was I able to do it? I had to grow. They were telling me, you haven't arrived yet. You have to grow. You have to get big enough to live your life that way.
Thank you.
Not easy, huh? But
no, but it's really amazing. Like, there's hardly any teachers or teachings or whatever stuff out there that has that level of depth, I don't think.
Well, I don't think I'm unique. My teacher saw things that way. He trained me to see things that way. He did. I mean, I could tell you stories. I mean, horrible things that happened that that I had only one choice. I had to forgive. Otherwise, I could have gone out and killed somebody. I had only one choice, and that was forgiveness. That's how terrible things that people did to people I know and to me. And my only choice in the matter, and this is what Rudy told me, Ramana Maharshi told me, Ramakrishna told me, Nityananda told me, forgive. Forgive. It's like Mahatma Gandhi said, an eye for an eye means that everybody on the earth is going to eventually be blind. And there's great truth in that. So the act of forgiveness allows us to move on in life. It doesn't mean we have to hang out with these people. It doesn't mean we forget. But in order to move on, we have to let go of it. We have to forgive people. We have to forgive ourselves for all the stupid things we've done in life. And honestly, it starts with forgiving ourselves. I mean, is there anybody here who hasn't done a stupid thing in their life, who hasn't hurt somebody? Raise your hand. So you got to learn to forgive yourself. And the first thing I'll never forget, when Rudy told me that story about how his mother did that to him, and I saw the way he treated her with so much love and so much respect. He never went to India. He used to go to India for business and his spiritual practice. And coming back with some beautiful, piece of jewelry, something that would just light her up, and make her feel good. Treated her that way. Took her out for dinner all the time. I mean, it was incredible. Does anyone else have a question? I mean, all the insanity that goes on in Israel with all of that, the Palestinians and the Israelis and the fighting. Nobody forgives. Everybody is taking revenge. And meanwhile, people are getting killed left and right because nobody says, okay, let's sit down. I want to forgive. Now, there's a little bit of innocence in this. Very few people have training. They haven't developed a system inside that's strong enough to do what I'm talking about. But that's what this is all about. And hopefully I'm providing this for you all so you can move on in your lives. I can move on in my life. I remember once I was in India and I had a business partner in India who was Muslim. And we would travel around India together. We did a lot of business together. And I was very close with him and his family. His wife came to me. She had an illness and I did healing with her. And, they wound up getting my books published in India and, stuff like that. And I'll never forget, they invited me for brunch with the whole family. It was a huge family. And I went up there and I walked into the apartment and there were a group of men standing in the living room and they all looked like Osama bin Laden. They had all the outfits, And I walked into the room and here I am, a Jewish guy from the Bronx. I said, oh my, and these people treated me with such dignity and such love and such respect that I was completely blown away. Such dignity, such love. They kept asking me about the meditation I teach, what I do. And we sat down for brunch and they put this big, platter in the middle of everybody and you ate with your hands. You would take the food And they kept putting the best pieces in front of me. It was extraordinary. It was extraordinary. I mean, it was such an education for me about how religion and all this stuff that goes on in people's brain, none of it matters. People, they were grateful I healed their daughter. None of the doctors in Mumbai could find out what was wrong. And I did 2 sessions with her in this meditation practice, and the whole problem went away. And all they can show is gratitude. Thank you. It was. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Remember, I once gave a lecture, I published my books there in Mumbai and big lecture all over India. And I gave a talk in Mumbai, and there was huge. There must have been 200 people in this hall. And after the talk was over, I had all of these people coming up to me, and they would bend down, they would kiss my foot. This is something I wasn't used to. And they would say, Baba, thank you for bringing to India what we've forgotten. And it was incredible. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. And this happened with person after, thank you, Baba. They call me Baba, it's a term of endearment, in India. And thank you for bringing to India what we have forgotten. And all I did was talk the way I talk with all of you. I gave a talk. God is love. It's the key. That's what everybody that does any kind of spiritual practice is trying to attain. Open heart, love, gratitude, forgiveness. I mean, the Dalai Lama talks about it all the time, kindness. Does anyone else have a question they would like to
ask? Stuart?
Yes.
It's all the time, it's our talking about forgiveness. It's not just easy to forgive, but I think we have to go that way to work and just let it go.
What to do about? I didn't understand the question.
Okay. Can you explain how to forgive?
How to forgive?
Yeah.
Develop a system inside that is strong enough to keep your heart open so that you can transform all of that emotional stuff that makes you very tight and tense inside into love. You will forgive people.
The way we're doing with you, isn't it?
Yes. Well, this is what the meditation is about. It's all it's about.
Yes. Okay.
Learning how to do this. Takes time. You think I did this in 1 year of doing it? It took years to get the kind of development in myself to be able to do that kind of thing. And going through some horrible experiences that, boy, I could have gotten very dangerous. And yet, Nityananda, Rudy, Chunk, all of them, forgiveness is the answer. You have to move on in your life. You have to build a system that enables you to do it. Meditation is about that, building that kind of system. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, there'll be class on Sunday. Don't forget, it's an hour earlier for those of you that, living in Europe and in the Middle East, Brazil. And God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being my teacher. Thank you for dragging out of me all this stuff, which I also need to listen to. So God bless you all.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.